Trumpets raked the warm morning air, and for half a heartbeat the crowd hushed. Was Britain about to watch a monarch cling to ceremony by sheer force of will? Or would the Order of the Garter itself reveal the new wiring that keeps the crown alive in an age allergic to pageantry? That question lingered, sharp as sunlight on polished helmets, while King Charles III, frailer than he was a year ago, but determined, stepped from the castle archway and turned toward St. George's Chapel. Every eye snapped to his slight hesitation, and a collective pulse quickened. If he faltered, what else in this ancient machine might wobble next? The monarch's appearance was more than symbolic. Doctors had advised him to scale back, but Charles knows optics better than most statesmen. Cancelling a rite founded in 1348 would have unleashed tabloid doom choruses about no-show sovereign. So he split the difference, skip the open-air march down the hill, yet attend the private lunch and the chapel service. It was a compromise that said, I'm still here, but I'm modern enough to admit limits. In 2025, that counts as radical honesty under a velvet cap. Just behind him, Queen Camilla glided in midnight blue silk, smile immaculate. Observers registered two conflicting signals the moment she appeared. First, her composure was textbook, the sort of unflappable warmth that has kept skeptics at bay for years. Second, her carriage sat a full length behind the one that would carry Prince William and the Duke of Edinburgh, subtle staging that rang like a soft gong for anyone tracking the slow redistribution of royal gravity. Was Camilla content with this gently receding spotlight? Or did that pearl-bright smile mask the sting of patronages, quietly reassigned to Catherine and Sophie over the past 6 months? Nobody could say for sure, but the question itself felt like a hook tugging viewers deeper into the day's unfolding narrative. Those viewers, by the way, numbered in the millions. Live streams hummed across phones in cafes from Brixton to Brisbane, each one waiting for the same micro-moment. That flash of unscripted humanity the monarchy must now supply to stay relevant. They didn't wait long. Prince William reached the lower cloister first, boots clipping limestone with parade ground precision, only to have his uncle Edward lean in and murmur a private joke. The air's guard dropped, a genuine laugh burst free, the camera shutters stuttered. 15 seconds later future king laughs rocketed up the trends. One more proof that a monarchy surviving on imagery must feed social feeds, with split-second authenticity, or risk starvation by scrolling thumb. Inside the chapel, the order's companions unfurled their dark blue mantles, ostrich plumes nodding like swans. It is impossible to watch that tableau and not feel the centuries stack up. The same white ostrich feathers crowned the hats of knights who rode to Agincourt. The same Garter motto, Honi soit qui mal y pense, hung from the doublet of a disgraced Edward VIII. Yet today one mantle was missing. Prince Andrew's stall stood polished and vacant, its carved banner waving to no one. The emptiness spoke louder than sermons. Reputation, once lost, outranks blood even in blue velvet, and that lesson shimmered through stained glass light toward every seated royal. Charles, meanwhile, held the room in a grip far firmer than his doctors might have predicted. He stood for both hymns, voice audible on the descant line, and only once did his right hand tremble against the pew. That tremor, of course, became the afternoon's talking point for bookmakers and broadsheet columnists alike. If his condition slides again, will the crown pivot seamlessly into a William-led regency? Or will uncertainty feed the Republican undercurrent already lapping at polling margins? The palace seems to have a plan and today offered the teaser: keep Charles visible enough to calm nerves, but let William and Edward shoulder conspicuous leadership cues. That strategy snapped into focus as the final blessing echoed. Outside, the sovereign's carriage awaited for the short ride back to lunch, but William and Edward stepped forward to lead the cortege across the quadrangle. The choreography practically yelled succession in soft capitals. 2 generations, side by side, matching stride like twin cogs in a freshly oiled gear. It might have been accidental timing. It almost certainly wasn't. Fans lining the long walk sensed they were witnessing a rehearsal in plain sight, and their cheers swelled. Camilla responded with a double-handed wave, radiant but slightly isolated, her entourage trimmed to a skeleton staff. One veteran commentator whispered into his mic, "Her Majesty is playing the long game, smaller stage, but still center light." Perhaps. Yet the buzz inside the press pen leaned another way. A queen consort, whose influence is shrinking by design as the Wales machine ramps to cruising speed. The monarchy's survival kit in the digital age demands younger faces, leaner budgets, and narrative control. Camilla, once the comeback queen, may have to pivot again, this time to elder stateswoman grace. That pivot became more apparent during the post-service luncheon in the castle's Waterloo chamber, a room whose very panels tell stories of victory wrested from existential threat. Over fillets of Windsor lamb and strawberries from Sandringham glasshouses, Charles reportedly floated a bombshell. By 2027, 3 households, the Waleses, the Edinburghs, and the Gloucester line, could merge administrative backrooms into a single cost-efficient unit. 40% savings. Fewer overlapping private secretaries. Modern optics for an age of fiscal scrutiny. Camilla listened, nodded once, and said nothing until dessert. According to a leaked whisper, her only remark was a wry, "Economy is its own pageantry." If confirmed, those 5 words will appear in tomorrow's leader columns as both grace note and veiled warning. While ministers weigh budget lines, ordinary Brits locked onto the king's stamina. Medical analysts on breakfast TV had forecast he might manage a 20-minute cameo. He doubled that. The palace will spin the longevity as evidence of robust recovery. Skeptics will point out that he skipped the outward march. What matters is perception, and the immediate perception, reinforced by William's visible readiness and Edward's easy camaraderie, is that the House of Windsor can still pull off grandeur without stumbling. Yet grandeur alone no longer guarantees staying power. Social scientists track younger demographics, less impressed by velvet than by vulnerability. That's where Catherine, ironically absent today, commands the story's next hook. Recovering from chemotherapy, she remains the monarchy's empathy engine. Rumor says she reviews every speech William will deliver this summer, layering mental health messaging beneath the constitutional prose. When she returns to full duty, some whisper trooping rehearsal in July, expect camera lenses to zoom not on regalia, but on whether she flinches under sun glare, whether fatigue shows around her eyes. The Wales brand lives or dies on relatability, and Catherine's health, brutally, is now part of that brand. Meanwhile, Lady Louise Windsor, newly elevated Duchess of Edinburgh in waiting, prepped backstage for her first diplomatic training cycle. Most Britons still struggle to pick her from a lineup, and that anonymity is exactly why Charles chose her. No baggage, no scandals, a canvas on which to paint a Gen Z royal narrative. The risk? She's 21, shy, and social media naive. One unscripted soundbite could supply Republicans with months of meme fuel. William's team allegedly assigned her a crash course in crisis comms before she hits Australian soil next spring on the so-called Unity Tour, timed, not coincidentally, just ahead of Australia's Republican referendum. Another hook: will a soft-spoken Duchess sway a continent, or will voters shrug at hereditary goodwill? By late afternoon the procession was over, crowd barriers folded, and Windsor's cobbles shimmered with dust and dropped programs. Yet in the minds of the people who watched, new images burned bright. Charles gripping the pew yet refusing a chair, William laughing with Edward-like allies already co-governing, Camilla's brave smile shading unresolved questions, a vacant stall shouting Andrew's exile, and an unseen Catherine, convalescing, but pulling narrative strings from Kensington. Tradition alone did not carry the day, tension did. That tension, between aging and adaptation, between pageant and personal story, kept global viewers glued longer than any velvet robe or ostrich plume. And tension is the monarchy's newest lifeline. It drives clicks, debates, and, paradoxically, loyalty. People stick around to see what happens next. What does come next? A late summer summit at Balmoral to finalize household mergers and possibly announce fresh Commonwealth roles for Edward. A trooping rehearsal where Catherine, still mid-recovery, may salute regiments from the days Camilla occupied last year. An autumn finance statement slashing minor royal stipends by nearly half. And, always, the unpredictable variable of Charles's health curve. One bad scan could accelerate every plan by 6 months. For now Windsor sleeps, trumpets silenced, but the echo of today's hooks reverberates. A king proving resilience by calculated vulnerability, an heir proving readiness by spontaneous warmth, a queen consort navigating dwindling territory with immaculate poise, and a waiting nation scanning each headline for the tiniest clue about tomorrow's stability. Garter Day 2025 began as a medieval spectacle and ended as a cliffhanger in a streaming age serial. Same feathers, same chapel, entirely new stakes. Stay tuned, because the next episode writes itself on every pulse beat where velvet, power and mortality converge.